Hello? Is this thing on? Hopefully. Hopefully it's on. We're just gonna raw dog it with this recording. I had a script and I worked on the script for a long time and I was never satisfied with what it was. So we're just going to do our best to make it happen. Just no script. I'm going to call this one Tomboys, Trans Girls, and Choice. And I hope you will forgive my, frankly, terrible handwriting. That was never something I was especially good at, and I'm trying to make it better. But we're gonna talk about this topic today. And the thing I want to get at is a perceived double standard, right? A perceived double standard. So I'll start off by talking about what is my motivation for this video. And my motivation for this video is that sometimes I will see in online spaces a picture that depicts, there is some person, and then there is some timeline change, and after some time it's like the same person, but they're like more feminine now, right? They have more classically feminine traits. They've got like the long hair, like down to here or whatever, and they've got like a purse, right? That's what I'm talking about. And it's not clear what's happened because it's a simple like progress picture, right? It's a pretty simple progress picture. Here, I'll just make sure I use something that will help me out. It really is just a like A to B like this, right? Or, oh yes, I haven't seen my friend in so long and they've really changed their style. That's the thing I'm talking about. Sorry, I've picked the wrong pen. Here we go. And so the thing that I want to talk about here is that depending on what space you see this picture in, the reactions to what you're seeing can be wildly different, right? They can be wildly different. And I want to say this is something that is rooted in my perception of queer or queer accepting spaces. This is not really about the larger space of the internet. And sometimes I will talk about queer spaces because I really believe that we should be inclusive and we should do our best to have a welcoming environment, right? Have a welcoming environment. That's sort of one of the appeals. One of the appeals of queer spaces is that we are welcoming, right? And we should be an inclusive space for everyone. So it's with this motivation that I am talking about all of this, and I will basically boil down the argument to this, right? Are they a tomboy or are they a trans girl? Right? I'm going to use they as a sort of gender neutral term here. In some cases, this sort of transformation, of course, this is why you must check. My captioning thing broke, so there we go. I've somewhat lost my train of thought, so give me a second here to work through it. The question essentially is this person at the end, this female presenting. Oh wow, this is some really terrible handwriting. Presenting, I'll just use this instead. That's a bit easier. This female presenting person, right? Are they making this choice on their own, or is it due to societal pressure? I think is really what it boils down to. So it goes somewhat like this. This is the reactions that I've seen, the way that I see people talk, the way that I see people discuss this sort of standard around these sorts of images online, especially if someone draws this, right? And it's some Twitter post somewhere, and oh, A to B, what's the situation? If this person was a cisgender tomboy, right? It's a tomboy girl, right? And they have changed their style to be more female presenting, it is lambasted. It is heavily criticized, right? So if they were a tomboy first, right, people don't like it. As in the queer spaces, they don't like it, right? And even in not so queer spaces, right, it's just sort of a I don't like that. But if this person is boyish in the sense that they were a boy, right? They were male presenting and have since transitioned and become a trans girl, right? More female presenting. I think the terminology on that I'm not being really good about because, of course, in some regards, maybe you were always a girl, right? Like that sort of stuff. I think the verbiage on that I can definitely be better on. So I ask for some grace on how I describe all of this. If this person was a trans girl before, it's great. It's awesome. Look, they're becoming more comfortable with themselves and they are being their true selves. I don't like this dichotomy. That's, I think, essentially the basis of this conversation. The basis of this conversation is about choice. Okay, basis of this conversation is about choice because I think that regardless of whether you are a cisgender female or a trans girl, you should be allowed to express yourself however you want. That's my hot take, right? My hot take is that self-expression is, I'm going to write this pretty badly, is your choice. It is your choice. And what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is when we think about a trans girl, right, in this situation, in this scenario, and I would say hypothetical scenario, but actually it's not hypothetical. I am talking about real things that I have seen, so it's not really actually a hypothetical scenario at all that I've imagined. And in fact, seeing these things is what has prompted this whole video. What do I think about this? I think one of the key points here is that when it is a trans girl, right, it is a defiance of social norms, right? Norms. I can spell norms. It is in defiance of a perceived, and of, I'll say, like of gender roles or the gender, like binary or constraints or whatever have you, right? This is sort of a murky subject for me. Whereas if it's a tomboy, right? A tomboy becoming more feminine, this is in compliance, I'll say. Compliance of gender norms. And I would say this is probably what irritates people about this. So I'll give a specific example, and actually this is the example that I'm going to be vague about what the source material is, but I will tell you what I have seen and my perception on it one more time as I'm sort of walking through this scenario. I have seen a picture exactly like this, right? Part A is a tomboyish, male-ish figure, right? Not very feminine. It's not clear whether this is a male or a female person. Right? And then B is this person is now way more feminine, right? Way more classically feminine attributes, right? The purse, the long hair, all of that stuff that makes it feel very femme. And what I have seen, this is a paraphrase of a comment that I've seen, is essentially, oh, when I imagine this as a trans girl, I'm much happier about it. It kind of stinks if this is a cis woman, right? I don't like this kind of change. Other comments include things like, oh, we have to protect tomboys, and this is sort of like, I don't like it because tomboys are already so rare, stuff like this. I have a few things to say. Number one, right? Number one, this is my most important, actually not my most important point, but a point. Tomboy trans girls exist. This is a terrible S. Forgive me. I can draw an S, right? They exist. It's not one or the other, right? Your gender identity and your expression of that are not the same thing. They're not inexplicably linked, right? And we know that, obviously, because if you're watching this video, you, I hope, accept the fact that tomboys exist. And that women can dress in a more masculine or androgynous style and still be women, right? There's no question about that. There's no, like, oh, what if... No. It's just a tomboy. It's fine, right? Everyone accepts that is a thing. I hope that you accept that that's a thing. If you don't accept that that's a thing, probably this video is not for you, right? I'm not really trying to have a discussion with conservatives who, like, don't agree with the existence of trans women, right? That if you're that person, this video is not for you. Go somewhere else. The point will be lost on you, basically. I'm not here to argue that. So number one, tomboy trans girls exist, right? Number two, right? Gender identity does not automatically mean or equal self-expression, right? You don't have to, that is to say, you don't have to dress femme to be a woman, okay? Some obvious reasons for this is, first of all, the gender binary is silly, right? If you're a non-binary person, right, and you dress femme, that doesn't mean that your gender identity suddenly becomes woman, right? If you dress masculine, you don't suddenly, it's not like a magical, magical girl transformation sequence where, oh, I put on my outfit and suddenly I'm the other gender, I'm the other identity, right? Whatever the case may be. So that's one thing. I probably should have had an outline for this, but the reason that I bring up all of this, right, and I've now sort of explained one of the things that I've seen, the way that people talk. The reason let me take a second. I think that this, whether it's in compliance or in defiance of social norms, is probably part of the reason why people do or don't like it, especially in queer spaces, right? Because, oh, if it's a trans girl in defiance of social norms, then it's their self-expression. They're making their change, they're living their truth, that's awesome. But if it's a tomboy who's become more feminine, then it must be because external factors push them into the woman box, right? That they have to dress a certain way and look a certain way. I think that's nonsense. I think that's silly. I think it's totally valid to say, yes, that there are absolutely social pressures around the way you dress, obviously. However, to say that that is the only reason is ridiculous, right? And to sort of view it from that angle, and this is a lot of what I see, which is why I do perceive it a little bit as this is the way that people see this. It's never, oh, I'm so happy that this, maybe more mousy or more tomboyish woman feels more comfortable in her own skin and is trying out something for herself, right? It's never that. It's, oh, if she changed this way, it's because society made her. Society made her do it. I think that's sort of an egregious take. And part of why I don't like it is because it means that if anyone makes that choice for themselves, you are denying their ability to choose, right? So I guess I need probably need a new layer for this. Here, I can just mask out, can mask out this section. Click. Mask out that, oh, all the way around. Can mask out this section. And I will say it's up to each, that's how you spell each person to decide for themselves. That's choice, right? That's what giving people the ability to choose is. And part of why I say this is because we should want, right, as people in queer spaces, or as allies of queer people, or just generally decent human beings, right? We should want each person to be able to direct their own future. And part of that means not attributing decisions that people make necessarily to societal pressures, right? We can be cognizant of the fact that, yes, societal pressures may have a part to play, but I find it a little odd, and frankly, I find it a little gross, right? The same way that I find it a little strange and a little odd when we look at women in careers, right? Let's say women in careers is a good analogy. It's a good, I don't know if analogy is the right word. It's a good parallel. It's a good parallel. If a woman decides for herself, I would like to be a homemaker. I want to stay at home with the kids and take care of them. That's totally fine. That's totally okay. But if society puts her in that box and says, no, you're not allowed to have a career, you're not allowed to make that choice for yourself, you have to be a homemaker, that's bad. And I think that's part of where this comes from, is we don't really have any evidence one way or another as to what caused this change, right? What is the real underlying reason? And people assume, especially in the case of art or these like timelines or whatever, that it's nefarious. That either the artist depicting this is being nefarious, or the person involved is not able to make their own choices and doesn't have the agency to resist the societal pressure, right? And I think this presumption of guilt, this presumption that the artist is depicting something bad, or they have really backwards opinions, right? It doesn't appeal to me. And part of why it doesn't appeal to me, to sort of wrap this back up to tomboys and trans girls, is because if you say, oh, this transition must have been caused by societal pressure, right? And it's societal pressure if a tomboy dresses more feminine, right? Because obviously it wasn't her choice. But if a trans girl dresses more feminine, right, then obviously it's in defiance of social norms. And I ask you, is it? Is it actually? Is it actually in defiance of social norms? If a woman dresses sort of tomboyish and you have a sort of tomboyish trans girl, or what is the, there's a butch lesbians, right? They have a particular look to them, right? Which can be a little tomboyish or a lot tomboyish. I'm not super knowing about those things, but that's just my impression, so please feel free to correct me on that. If you say, oh, well, it's better if they dress feminine, and that's really someone expressing themselves fully, right? Aren't you just also kind of enforcing the gender binary again, right? And saying, oh, well, trans girls, they have to dress feminine, right? It's good if they dress feminine, and so they should dress feminine. Should they? Should they necessarily dress feminine? Is that really a requirement, right? To this point, is it really defiance or compliance of gender norms, right? And part of this is because I see gender norms a little bit as what I call societal expectation, right? Societal expectation. And this may not have been a thing for you, but when I was much younger and in high school, we had a few tomboyish girls that were sort of the prince types, right? You might have seen this in like manga or something, but we actually had a few. We had a few girls who really, they were very charming and they were very sweet. But they were very, they were tomboyish, and they were just in this role. And finding your sort of role in high school can be part of the whole experience, whether for weal or for woe, whether for good or for bad. So if such a person feels that they were eternally typecast, right? They feel eternally typecast, then in the same way, isn't that again saying, oh, you can't stop being a prince, because if you stop being a prince, that is in defiance of our societal expectation, right? Complying to the gender norms means defying the typecast and the box we've put you in. And then it's a lose-lose either way, right? That's a catch-22. So I'm not really sure I've made the best point here through all this, but this is sort of my ramble about how I think we should be a bit more careful about what we attribute to each person, and a bit more cognizant of the fact that each person kind of has their own story, and it's a little crummy to it's just a little crummy to look at this scenario, right, this one, and go, it's okay if it's a trans girl, but it's bad if it's a cis woman. Why? Why is it? Why is it that way, right? If you're saying it's compliance or defiance of social norms and gender norms, right? Also, this should have been gender norms too, actually. My bad. This should have been gender norms. frankly, if you see both of these people as women, and I think this is part of it, right? Is if B is a woman, right? You maybe wanna, you should see it. This is my penmanship. The same regardless of A. Right? Because if B is a woman and she is happy dressing feminine, it's none of your business what she was before, right? And if we see the transition timeline from tomboy to feminine woman, or you know, a man to trans girl, or whatever, however you want to describe that, right? Viewing it from those two lenses, I'm really not doing a good job of explaining this, I think, but it just sounds a little crummy to say whether or not we support B and her stylistic choices and wardrobe and whatever the case is entirely dependent on what she was doing before, right? Why shouldn't we celebrate someone's self-expression regardless? Why is it not just like a little bit different? It's night and day. It's bad if they were a tomboy. It's good if they were a trans girl. I think that's a disservice to cis women. I think it's a disservice to trans women. I think it's a disservice to everyone in the queer space. And that's my point. My point is, we should assume the best intentions when it comes to choice. We should let people choose, right? We should encourage people to have the choice to express themselves however they want to live their lives however they want to, whether they want to dress feminine or masculine, whether they want to be a homemaker or a career woman, whether they want to take a rocket ship to Mars or be a farmer, or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that they want to do. Yeah, I think that's my point. My point is we should support people's choices, and also maybe not assume malfeasance. Maybe not assume malfeasance in people, in artists, in these sorts of situations. All right, that's it. That's me done. Bye-bye.